Don't worry about it.
But today we're here, and you know what? We're here to talk about a beautiful, beautiful man.
Keanu Reeves.
A man who deserves no introduction, but we've introduced and said his name about 1 billion times. We're doing our top 5 Keanu Reeves movies. Julien.
Yeah.
You know, how do you want to do this? You want to do 5 to 1? The best Keanu Reeves movie first, and then in like kind of detracting order. Do you have honorable mentions this time?
Oh, I didn't know he was in Toy Story 4.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
He plays a character that they got sued for.
Oh, that's hilarious. This guy's great.
Duke
Kaboom. I definitely have honorable mentions. I mean, I already mentioned one, Dracula.
Dracula.
I think he's just done. I think I want to start off by saying that this is. I mean,
what a career.
He's had a fantastic career, and he's really made some of the movies that have influenced me as a person. Particularly The Matrix, John Wick I love, and Speed I really like. I think he's sort of just really made some fantastic movies that I truly do really love. And I think he has a really interesting career in that he is this Hollywood blockbuster action superstar that people love to see in the action role, but he also has gone back since he's made these really huge action movies and done smaller indie movies, indie type movies, I guess, and he really does, like, whether or not he's good in those movies is the question, but and whether or not that this man can really hold up in a more dramatic role is you know, it is what it is. But I appreciate the fact that, one, he's given the opportunity to do that, and that he takes those roles because he's passionate about not just the action movies, but he's also passionate about, you know, the art of filmmaking and this type of thing. So I really like him.
He does have a very varied career, I would say. He does a lot of action, but he breaks it up with some pretty interesting pieces.
Yeah, so that I think he's one of the most I would dare I say prolific actors of our time. I think he's done some really weird movies. He's done some really cool movies. He looks cool on screen. I think he's just, you know, an all-around likable guy. I don't think there's not much to dislike about Keanu Reeves, except for maybe, what was that movie where those two girls come, the pizza, the one where he says something about the pizza. It is about a fucking pizza or something.
Knock Knock, wasn't it?
Knock Knock, yeah. Or no, isn't it Generation No,
Could
Knock
be.
Knock. What is Generation then?
I don't know what Generation is. Knock Knock you've talked about before on the podcast.
Yeah, Knock Knock is the one where he has to where he's being held hostage in his own house because he cheated on his wife, because these girls were specifically go out into the world to try to make guys cheat just to prove a point. And then he said it was just like, there's a funny quote where he says something about pizza and I can't even remember it, but it's when he's tied up. It's actually a great scene. That movie is super weird. You know, it's just like, he does make some questionable choices. Specifically, I would say Dracula he's not particularly good in. And he sort of comes from this background where, you know, one of his big roles as a younger actor was Bill and Ted, Excellent Adventure, right? And also Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. And he sort of gives you, and of course his breakout role is Point Break, which we'll get into later, and he sort of has this surfer vibe and that surfer type accent that many people emulate and make fun of, and you sort of sometimes you see that in his eyes in in certain movies that clearly don't have that sort of vibe, and you just can't unsee it. But there's a certain charm to that.
A few times.
But there's a certain charm to that, and I do think he's still able to have a really cool presence on screen, and I do really like him as actor, as I've said. So I wanted to sort of open up that way and sort of talk about Keanu Reeves' career as a whole, but you know, I think he really did sort of blow up in the early 90s, right after, you know, Point Break. He did sort of a run of movies, early 90s into the 2000s, actually. He did sort of like 10 years of back-to-back movies. He did a couple movies. Apparently in 1993 he had 4 movies, which is crazy.
That is really a lot of work for an actor.
in one of his movies, so let's not count that. But 3 movies he's got a pretty decent role in, and in 1991 he did apparently Providence, I've never seen, Point Break, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, My Own Private Idaho I have seen, but I don't quite remember. I watched it a while ago. And he was also in Paula Abdul, Rush Rush, a video short. So he did quite a lot of things in the early 90s, throughout the 90s. And that's really when he became the superstar leading up to The Matrix, which is arguably one of the best movies of all time, I would say. We have reviewed it on this podcast before, and that goes to show how much we love it. I think it sort of transcends. It sort of hit. We talked about it, but I think it sort of hit at the right moment in human civilization to have this type of movie, I would say. And I think that Keanu Reeves, obviously he didn't write it, but he did a really fantastic job as Neo in that movie. So